All right, guys, here we go. All right, well, Columbus, Georgia ISSA, welcome back for the April meeting. Happy to see so many faces in the room. Let me go ahead and warm you guys up. We're probably going to go right into the speaker here in just a second. We have Michael Taylor here to talk to us about cyber warfare for the new school. So looking forward to seeing what that looks like. Again, the agenda will be going out before end of week with the meeting minutes, and so you will have access to all the presentations you're seeing today and everything that's being talked about. Just some quick announcements. Again, if you're not watching our website, do go out there, take a look. Again, columbus.issa.org. We are, again, forecasting up to 6 months out all the happenings for the organization. Also, if you didn't see it in the newsletter, our CSSP sign up is now. Again, I just can't say how good this is. You know, we're covering the books, we're covering the meals, we're giving you the medium to learn, we're giving you a remote environment to collaborate in after class. Again, it's a great deal. It's free, right, if you're currently a member, so do take advantage of that. I have some great instructors coming out. I have a specialist for each one of the 8 domains. So again, it's a really big opportunity. I encourage you to take advantage of it. We are doing a small classroom environment, which we will be providing food for. With that being said, if for some reason we don't get you this time, if I find that there is a level of interest that exceeds our current capacity, I will run another cycle of it. But the only way I'll know that, again, is if you sign up, so please sign up. Also, if you're not following us on Twitter, please follow us on Twitter. We always like to put little exciting announcements out there. You know, one of those is an example, DC 706 just turned up. That's our local DEF CON group. They are meeting at the last Saturday this month. Please get out there and check it out. Again, we are following them with our Twitter account, so if you want to take a look, there's good stuff going on there. Also, if you're not in our LinkedIn discussion group, you know, if you're on there with a pseudonym and you were just, you know, not knowing it existed, but you need an invite, do let me know. I'd love to get you in the group and join the conversation that's going on there. Also, our next event is open to the public, so please bring your friends, encourage your colleagues to join. We're going to be doing it at the Infantry Museum. It will not be at this time. It will be a little bit earlier in the day. Loretta, what time are we going on it? 4 o'clock. So this one will be at 4 o'clock. Again, we will have access to the local restaurant there, which will include all the beverages and food that you would typically expect at an event. Again, it's at the Infantry Museum. I think that makes a lot of exciting possibilities if you wanted to pregame a little bit before the main show. Also, we're going to be bringing out our speaker, Mike Rago. I can't say enough good things about Mike. Mike's been in the security game for the longest time. He was one of the first guys to break the back on detecting stego. He's been in all the cons speaking since back in the 90s. You know, some of the first DEF CONs, he was one of the original speakers. This guy's amazing, and so please, if not only bring a friend, but get prepared. I think we have probably one of the best security researchers I know in the industry coming out to talk. Also, again, we are live right now on Discord. We are streaming on YouTube. If you guys aren't aware, I'll try to get the channel distribution so you guys can look backwards and see some of the prior meetings. Again, this is a new endeavor for us, so bear with us as we improve both the quality of our audio, video, and presentation style. But again, go take a look and certainly give me your feedback if you get a chance to take a peek. With that being said, let me bring Michael up and drum rolls. Get the main show going.
Thanks,
Michael, everyone.
All right, so stop taking pictures. Yeah, so I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Peter, for inviting me. This is something I've had a lot of experience with over the last 20 years. Really, just this is my passion, and being able to bring this to a group of people is kind of a privilege, per se. So be cognizant I will be kind of dumbing some things down, or not, for my own self, to make sure that I don't disclose any classified information that I know. A little bit about myself. I am an associate director of information security at ISSA. So I am, specialize in the SIM technology. I've done a multitude of roles in cyber defense with PenDrop, if anybody's familiar with the audio fraud detection. And I was a vehicle cyber threat intelligence analyst for General Motors for a few years doing research on specific vehicles. Before that, I was heavily involved in cyber warfare with for the intelligence communities, multiple intelligence communities. So I've been around understanding a little bit of how they operate in regards to cyber warfare, cyber espionage, with the stand-up of cyber command and all of those factors. I am currently still in the Tennessee Air National Guard as a cyber warfare analyst. So kind of where I go is we develop the plans that provide to national defense for offensive operations. So that's kind of where some hobbies I do, like flying, scuba diving, woodworking, traveling. All right, get it a little bit about warfare. Warfare is as old as time. You know, most of it's an engagement of activities involved between two people. That's kind of where we see it. And from that, you know, you look at it and you say, okay, this position's gonna, you know, this country is gonna bomb this country, or this group's gonna bomb this group, and it's just fighting back and forth. With cyber, it's kind of redefined the whole warfare as a whole. As we've begun to look at it, it's really about how can we kinetically look. Okay, you have a kinetic bomb that needs to be dropped on a target. That's how everything's been done since, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years. Drop a bomb, call it a day. Well, nowadays it's not that simple. Now you have these nation-state hackers that are out there that are sponsored and funded by the specific country or organization, is whether it's Al-Qaeda, whether it's China, Russia, a multitude of Iran, North Korea, all of them. And all they want to do is try to find a way to either, like this says, disrupt vital computer systems, destroy those vital infrastructure. It goes endless. They can do this without even dropping a bomb. They can do all of that because the way that technology has intertwined itself in our lives, whether it's the cell phones we use, now you can easily track someone. You can watch what they're doing. You can hack their webcam. It's just an endless possibility. Really, using like here it says, where I was saying, using a piece of malware to attack their infrastructure, to degrade their defenses, their specific target sets. Everybody knows about the Iranians with Stuxnets. That was a huge deal. That was a cyber malware destroyed the centrifuges. Has anybody seen any of that? Heard any about that? I'm sure people have. But just destroying the centrifuges, you know how they did that? They used a piece of malware that just changed the volume of how the centrifuges turn. They made it turn so fast that they destroyed themselves. And that's kind of potentially what Stuxnets provided, a type of cyber warfare. The nation state that wanted that done provided that piece of malware in their systems. And that's kind of where the whole aspect of everything in cyber warfare goes along with what we can do. In the past, well, this is not what I wanted. I don't know why that didn't show up. We'll skip that. I don't know why that's in there. In the past, it was easy. This couple right here was well known for Julius and Ellen Rosenberg. Huge spy ring during the Manhattan Project. And they actually provided so much intelligence to the Russians during World War II that they literally changed the scope of the Soviet nuclear weapons program. And so this is how it was done 50 years ago. Now you got people like this. This guy, Kevin Mallory, was a CIA operative working at the CIA there in Langley. What did he do? He was recruited by a LinkedIn request about a job, a contracting job. I came from Maryland. That's where I was before I ever came to the Georgia and Alabama areas. So in Maryland, you get hunted all the time. Everybody wants to hire the latest and the best person. This guy, that's what happened to him. He ended up traveling to Shanghai, providing the Chinese all of this intelligence against American intelligence policies. Yes, this can be done. And I'm specifying a little more on espionage for a reason. We know a lot of them. The Russian democratic hacking that was believed to have happened. You know, Russia knew that they were trying to change the course of American policy by just by providing false data, false intelligence, changing the voting systems. You know, these voting platforms, they say they're unhackable. We know that they're not. Nothing is unhackable. The Chinese, of course, is a big one for us these days, with the increased Chinese involvement between the U.S. and how they have potentially compromised so many different systems in the U.S. from a intellectual property platform. You know, Huawei, huge platform that was actually based on Cisco. Now they're huge competitors, which is one of the reasons, if you've seen in the news lately, that Huawei has been, sanctioned against the U.S. because we know that they have implanted malware in their cell phones. They've implanted all these different devices to monitor or increase their footprint across the world. And of course, everybody knows the Sony hack because of the movie that was being released. North Korea didn't like that they were releasing the picture, so what did they do? They hacked Sony. And and of course this changed policy. This simple little movie ended up influencing the way that American policy was perceived and moved forward. And that's really what cyber warfare is doing. As you get a piece of intelligence from any of these organizations from cyber warfare, or a piece of, and I say intelligence in the matter of where my experience has come from in this is I was actually the offensive operator going out and grabbing this piece of intelligence from wherever it was in the world and grabbing it, bringing it back, and having that evaluated for its relevance and how it would provide for our national interest in intelligence, and try to see how the U.S. can do what they're doing to us. So cyber warfare is becoming more and more every day. Since I started this 17 years ago, it's literally, quadrupled in size from Cyber Command. Now we have the Army commands, the Navy commands. All of them are providing offensive operations against places all over the world. Some of the tradecraft that are big keys, and you'll kind of see where I'm going with this in a minute. They have the dedicated resources. You have a country that is funding all this, and we're talking millions and millions of dollars funding for research, computer, the software, the licensing, anything they can do to develop a capability or a weapon system to attack, whether it's a financial institution, whether it's a an insurance company, whether it's a technology company, it doesn't matter. Whatever they're trying to influence, that's the way they can do it. They have the time. I don't know how many times I've sat in networks for years, just slowly collecting data, little bits at a time, just waiting for the right moment that we need to make a switch and either shut down or pull it out. What do? Social engineering. The biggest aspect I can say of any organization these days. In phishing, making phone calls, trying to get people to give them their passwords. Those are simple examples, but they go in a lot more depth of influencing the employees of organizations to give up their data. They do it. They take truly detestable and unfair ways. They will blackmail. They will manipulate and attack friends, family. They don't care. As you've seen over the years, military personnel were targeted, specifically targeted on Facebook. Their families were threatened. with the integration between social media, Twitter, you know, the amount of email that it is, you take all of these and combine them into a big hodgepodge of information. It is an endless source of open source intelligence, as we would refer it to. The big thing is, they will not light up sensors. These guys are so good that they will blend in with your traffic. You will not notice them in their logs. They could be deep in your networks for years and you'd never know it. And some of the target sets that I worked on in the government, the projects were 10, 15 years old, and they had just been scavenging intelligence out of it. There's other ones that are brand new, but 95% of them were done with social engineering. Using the weakest link, the person, and taking that person and manipulating them to give what they need. Ways hackers can affect an organization. Again, using those social engineering methods. They may actually use a social engineering method of a weak administrator to turn around and go after the CEO and try to potentially influence that CEO to do something that they don't need to do, or give them information they don't need to, or just sitting there and wait till they can step into the next place. That's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get deeper and deeper in the networks to where, as all of us as security professionals, they kind of think, oh, perimeter-wise, you're good to go. But it's really in that deep, deep network places that really aren't that well. There's a lot of vertical movement. Perfect example, one of the biggest targets I went to in my career was web servers. You know, web servers are a big one. They're exposed. Mail exchange servers. Those things were easy targets. You could get those. Where it got harder was when you're going after domain controllers. Domain controllers, and most of the world nowadays is Windows, as we all know this. So my first target set was to get that domain controller, because once I had that domain controller, I owned that network. Because now I can dump the hash of the passwords, and I can move around and implant and get everything situated and back out. You'd never know I'm there. So these little things, that's where I'm saying, they hide in plain sight. They'll hide in your web traffic. They'll hide in your, they will have it throttled down so much to where they may be extracting a piece of intelligence or intellectual property or financial reports or card numbers so slow you'd never know it. You know, as breaches over the past few years, you've seen more and more breaches that have happened. A lot of them are just those holes that we don't find, that we look for, but are so buried down in there that you kind of get complacent and really don't understand that. DDoS attacks, sorry, I'm kind of in the midst here. DDoS attacks, you know, a big one for this is, let's deny that organization the ability to do business, or that government to do business, or specifically that military target to do business. That's one of the key things of cyber warfare, is to provide that extra denial for where you can bring kinetic weapons in there and destroy your target. Man-in-the-middle attacks. Another big thing for us these days is how to get in between where you're trying to go, poison the DNS, and go to Facebook. Facebook, I don't know how many people have Facebook in here. Facebook's a huge target. You can find a lot of information. I think one of the other things I can add to this is your people. What you post on Facebook, what you post on Twitter, all of that can be used to weaponize. I've taken, you know, a lot of specific pieces of intelligence, and one of the things I can tell you from my experience is, as you take one piece of information you may not think is that interesting, and you add another piece of information that's not that interesting, combining those makes something that's really interesting. And then you just keep adding to those and building the bigger picture to provide a better cyber warfare target. I know that was kind of short. Is there any questions? Things you want to know about, Travis?
I think it's been in the last couple of years, the U.S. has indicted a handful of hackers from other nation states.
Say again.
Sorry. Over the last couple of years, the United States has indicted a couple of hackers from different nation states. Historically, hackers have been treated under the Geneva Convention the same as soldiers. The value of that effectively is the soldiers that are participating in cyber warfare on behalf of the United States now cannot travel internationally securely, or at least less securely. Do you have concerns as somebody who's identifying as an offensive cybersecurity warfare guy for the United States military when you're traveling internationally?
Absolutely, I do. There's certain countries I'll never visit. I already know that. Only because of, everybody knows the Snowden leaks. Of course, my name was leaked in all of that somewhere in the troll stuff because I was disclosed to that I was. But in that perspective, as time goes along, things are older exploits are released, then I think it goes along with, after a while, you may not really care. For now, yes, I do very much think that there's areas of the country and the world the world that I will not go. I do think the indictment of hackers between the U.S. and China, and I think recently we had the Huawei's CFO indicted, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Snatched for Canada, I think.
Yeah, so there's definitely areas where I am more concerned. But again, because of my nature of where I go, and since I'm still an active member of the military, I actually have to report where I'm going. And they will give me a briefing on that area. And there's some places they're just going to deny, and I'm not allowed to go.
Are you guys having an active conversation around it with your unit?
We always have an active conversation about that type of stuff. We are highly trained in a lot of different areas and perspective for foreign travel. Of course, with our affiliation with the intelligence agencies, we have to abide by lifetime obligations, and one of those is foreign travel. We have to report those, other items to secure what we know. Any other questions? Come on, somebody's got to know something.
With a nation state attack, it's very difficult to prevent something like that with that kind of attack coming at you. What would you recommend for a small to large businesses to protect themselves from? It sounds like social engineering is effective.
It is probably the most effective, and from my experience, that's been the number one caveat to get where we need to get, is being able to manipulate just like they do to get what we need. So definitely phishing, any type of social engineering attacks, making sure that the users are well educated. The next would be ensuring that you have that perimeter effectively secure, as well as your critical assets. That would be my first. I know it's kind of a broad answer, but there's kind of
Just to dig into it a little bit, social engineering, there's so many different methods that people come down. You can send a link that has something that's malicious. You can send an actual file that's malicious. You can send credential theft. What in general is the more successful in social engineering?
phishing would probably be the number one behind just
Getting to click links?
both, really. Anything. A lot of times they can embed viruses within the actual emails themselves to where when they get it, it's just sitting there doing something. We've seen this in the past. Or you try to. This is where the social aspect comes with Facebook and putting your likes and your dislikes. You can actually build a target package around what they see on Facebook, and then try to twist that into a phishing email to execute against that specific person if you're really trying to go after a specific entity.
So, Mike, the other thing though, that social engineering doesn't have to be online. Right?
Yes.
So, particularly for soldiers and sailors and airmen, Marines, whatever, overseas, all I got to do is ask you to, hey, let's go down to Applebee's and have a couple beers. And if you really think you're you're really it in your environment, no matter what it is, a couple beers in, you'll start bragging about it. And I'll just sit there and I'll listen to you. I'll listen to you talk. But, you know, online they'll do it. They'll try and fish you that way. So one of the things we've seen in our own phishing emails that are legitimate phishing emails, legitimate meaning they're illegitimate, is, you know, how did they get all this information? All we did was go back and look at the guy's LinkedIn account. And all the things that he said about himself, acronyms, names, things that he's responsible for, is right there in his LinkedIn. So, you know, if I'm the guy creating that phishing email, all I'm going to do is cherry pick all that stuff, put it in there, send it off. But don't forget that you can be socially, just like we are right now, socially engineered that way too.
I saw that same tactic they were talking about. I forget who wrote the book, but there's a book about talking about the way that the Russians attacked the U.S. civilians during the nuclear times. That's how the Russians got all the nuclear information. They would take them to a bar and they would pretend to be stupid and they would basically learn all that information.
I'll take you to the bar. I'll put a pretty girl in front of you.
That's
whatever
exactly.
your weakness is, I'm gonna try and exploit.
That's exactly how the group that I brought back up here, that's how they operated. These two. He was the ringleader, and she'd go out to wherever it is and try to recruit the specific people that were involved in the Manhattan Project, and were able to gather this data. I mean, it's a type of espionage.
That's funny that you have that up when I missed that first part of the conversation.
Yeah, so it's funny that's exactly what we're doing here. But a lot more is, it's not just when cyber warfare is a whole broad topic now. It's espionage, it's, you know, theft. You know, it brings into a lot of realms because all of it can be done by, I mean, cyber warfare, in my opinion, is around nation state hackers. You know, and I think, you know, the way that we operate is we have to look at what, you know, nation state hackers do. I'm not so much worried about the nation state hackers perspective. It's all of the little guys out here that are part of the groups and that have a political agenda. We know what the nation state hackers want. They want to find a way to disrupt, deny, or destroy assets of our company or government.
You mentioned lying in wait for several years. So I've heard about tools that companies use to kind of prove that they're not hacked. Can you talk to the efficacy of that? Because it sounds like, essentially, it's like if in a physical sense, if somebody wanted to do harm to somebody, there's very little you can actually do if there's a concerted campaign against to protect yourself. Is it the same way with computer systems?
I would say wholeheartedly that any person that could say their systems are not hacked is wrong. Because I'm going to tell you, everybody's hacked in one way or the other. Their data's out there somewhere. They've had their data breached by a company because your phone, the apps that we download, the whatever it is, the app we do it, they collect your data and sell it.
Right, and some of that's third parties, but
Yes.
I'm talking about core business operations. Is there any way to say, hey, we're good. We've got a baseline. Now, if we do the things that we need to do, we've mitigated that risk.
Yes, you could very well get that, like you said, a baseline of what's going on in that network and watch that. But I still am wholeheartedly, with my experience, I don't see that any company doesn't have some exposure out there from potential hackers watching what's going on in the network. It's just, there's too many exposures not to. Whether it's an insider threat, whether it's an actual person that's sitting on a web server trying to do SQL injections. There's just too many holes.
The vulnerabilities exist.
Yeah, it's just that's my personal opinion on that one. And from my experience, there's not a way you can't get into a company, whether it's a person or physical computers, networks.
It's your dwell time, though. I think
Yeah.
what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So you know, if you pop the web server.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Now I
How does the
understand the
company ever
question.
get to a point where they're like, you know what, these web servers are good. We know it.
That's a hard one because as you look through a baseline think about it, if you sit on a network and you just let your data trickle out, it's gonna become a part of your baseline. So then at that point, you're really never gonna know if it's out of the ordinary, unless they switch it on and start downloading too fast, or something pops on the web server. It's really, really difficult. A technique that I've heard in the past, and this is not all companies can do this. They had an AWS environment. They were using Kubernetes. So what they would do is they would rebuild their Kubernetes environment from scratch every other week. So they would build up, they'd have one Kubernetes environment that would spin up in AWS. They would spin up the new one and shut down the old one and redirect all the traffic there. That's a pretty safe way to do it, but I know all companies can do that. That's extremely expensive. So, does that answer? That's a hard question.
No,
That's a great question, but it's hard.
So you mentioned trying to get a domain control being much harder to do than say getting the web server. But do you agree that most of the attacks that people are trying to do are against credentials versus the data first? And to get the right credentials, they get any data they want.
Yes.
So in that case, most from what I've seen occur, most attackers are going for credentials first, because that's what's going to get them to the data second. So looking at what's protecting the data and systems that are the credentials, that's how they're going to gain access. Do you think that there should be more focus on the management of credentials? Because today one of the things that I see in my job is they're not managed properly. They're either shared, they're generic, they're not stored in a vault if they are, if they need to be. They're using phone apps that you have no idea who the third party is, if they've been hacked, or the company has no idea what the protection is of those passwords. And you can put the website, web links, and everything in there. So what happens when that data is lost because the company is not necessarily providing the tool, or that the users within those networks are not being properly trained?
I agree with you on that standpoint. And that's the only reasons that I would target that domain controller, honestly, is to have the credentials to move around. Because once I have the credentials, I'm able to kind of maneuver. That's the goal. Is
Once you get domain admin,
you're done. You can do what you need to do. So yes, definitely the security of access management is an important factor, because when you have a better system of that, I think there's some products out there nowadays that have like temporary privilege access. I'm a proponent of that. I don't need domain admin for everything I need to do. If I need to install a specific thing, I can request that. Again, it comes back, that same system is probably vulnerable to something else that we don't know about. So it should be focused a lot more on the identity. Yeah.
They're moving around the network. They are that person and they have the right to do it. You're not going to see the logs for that because they're not
No,
monitored or anything.
exactly. And a lot of times that's what you'll do, is you'll go in there and you'll create a user that's John Black and kind of make it, you got to look at when you're at that level and you are trying to get that, if you wanted to create a user, for example, you got an admin user to create another user and then wiped out the logs to show that you actually created that user, you may blend in and nobody would ever know. As long as you make it very similar to somebody else's name. I joke with a person that I work with. She has the username I have everywhere else. I have a different username, but she gets all my email because everybody thinks that she's me. And that can be very similar. Taking one digit like we know, swap it out, and then you can move around and everybody's going to think, oh, that must be that person. They're really, as an administrator, you're not going to think about that. But from security professionals, we know this. We look at it and say, that looks a little funny. Let's move on. But it also is, if that person's clearing the logs behind them where they go, it's going to make it a lot more difficult from a forensic standpoint, because now they're not going to be able to track what they did.
Well, take them a while to figure it out too.
Exactly. That's kind of where I'm saying is, if I did that and then sat on a network for a while.
Mike, I'll find you. I
All
want
right.
you to know this.
Peter, I've already
Game
found
on,
you.
my friend. I'm an adversary too.
I found you.
I'm an adversary.
I'm gonna put John.
I already owns his bank accounts.
Yes. Come to my
The
network.
lack I see the most in the stuff that I do, which is on the other side, but we're not doing any early on, where there is no protection when that stuff gets taken. You don't know, you're not gonna get alerted until it's too late.
Exactly. I mean, that's definitely, and that's kind of, it's funny how I kind of moved into the world from an offensive side of things to now I'm more of a defensive person. Now I deal with a lot of the log sources that are looking at, so now I have to go look at the, you know, the validation of those log sources to see if they're actually there. And that's kind of where my day-to-day job is at TSIS is, you know, assist in moving forward with getting a better footprint. And as several of my team members are here, you know, I don't do it, they do it. I just direct. Kind of like Terry here.
I say, is that what you do?
Hey, Michael, we have a question online.
Sure.
Okay, if anyone is able to ask my info was in the LPM breach from a few years ago. Anything you care to share about what I should watch out for in the future? I'm not a high profile target by any stretch of the imagination, so this question could extend to any date breach.
If you were a part of OPM breach, you were probably notified by OPM. I know I was, and my wife was. A lot of that is you really need to, first of all, watch your credit. That's the number one thing. The other thing you might want to look at is be cognizant of what you post on Facebook. Lock your Facebook, Twitter, all that is to people you trust. I get LinkedIn requests all the time. That's another one that's big, that's public. Sanitize your LinkedIn. I know I did just to put some simple things, don't really have a lot of, it's very generic because I wanted it to be that way. As we move into a world where that type of breaches happen, I don't want to add any more info to someone to help them build a bigger picture on me. So I definitely think watching your Facebooks, Facebook, you know, Twitter, those type of accounts, limiting your exposure, you know, watching your threat, you know, your credit. Make sure you take advantage of OPM's offer of credit monitoring to ensure that they can give you a second pair of eyes. I have credit monitoring, but I also look for myself very often on what may be there. Hopefully that answered this question.
Or you can change your last name.
You could.
Your hair.
Dye my hair purple.
Thank you.
No, that'd be my son. He would love that. Any other questions, comments? Well, I very much appreciate you letting me come out and just sharing a little bit of what I'm passionate about doing, and which is why I continue to serve both in the civilian and a military sectors. Thank you.
Okay, got a couple items in the news I'm going to go through, and then, you know, about some volunteer opportunities and some other administrative items before we wrap up. Also on the account thing, I just want to comment back on that. You know, one of the challenges with computing devices is that you also have local accounts. And so what really adds to the complexity, in my opinion, of defending really any network environment is that you're up against all the potential software and configuration vulnerabilities in, again, any device with computing capability. You know, it could be a badge reader, it could be a camera, it could be that fish aquarium in the office. You know, all those things are exploitable, and those accounts, the local ones that the system uses, are not something that you can centrally manage. And so, you know, the risks definitely go well beyond centralized accounts, though that is definitely a major attack vector. So yeah, I don't know, just keep that in mind. It's you know, accounts are everywhere, and you cannot centrally manage all of them because again, these computing devices couldn't function if they didn't have their local accounts that, again, you cannot centrally manage. So also, Tradecraft sessions, if you guys aren't looking at our Tradecraft sessions, we are covering a lot of this good stuff. You know, they call it cyber warfare, the great equalizer. Now third world nations can take on big countries like ours because, again, computing really creates a level playing field. And we are covering a lot of those elements in our Tradecraft sessions that, again, all these government groups are utilizing. Real quick, just to kind of peel, and if you're on Discord right now or watching in YouTube, we're in the news section. I wanted to comment, there was a piece of Android malware out there that I thought was pretty significant. It's called Gustav. And what's interesting about it is that its code allows for it to participate in over 100 different financial institutions' websites as effectively a browser in the middle. And the way that it interjects itself is that it'll actually put into your financial institution's, like, say, login screen, its own form fields, and the minute you put your credentials in, again, this thing is now executing a financial transaction on the back. But this isn't new. Zeus Trojan did this back in 2003, I think it was, so, 2019 now. But again, what's special is it's on Android, and it's 100 different financial institutions, as well as 32 different providers of services for cryptocurrency users. So that is huge. I recommend you guys take a look at the links. It's really a well-made tool. And again, the links, you can explore it in much greater depth, from its code to its C2 to the injects, all of that. Also, something else that was interesting this month, I'm going to work on my scrolling game here, but FireEye released a Windows penetration testing platform. And I think what's interesting about that is that, a lot of us, when we come up through, let's just say public education, and even at home, the stuff that maybe your family bought off the shelf, and the stuff that you're buying is probably running Windows operating system. And I feel like sometimes the barrier to entry for some of you pros out there is that maybe you're focused on the less technical aspects of InfoSec, and those technical aspects seem a little foreign because, well, usually Linux is involved when we start getting into those real technical areas. And so again, FireEye, just what a great group. It's good that they got Mandiant. They've now released, again, a toolkit that is based on Windows and allows you to use the same tools that are normally associated with Kali Linux. Again, we have all the links there. It's called Commando. For some of our future Tradecraft sessions, maybe we'll utilize Commando. And again, for most of you, I think, and really most people out there, again, I think Windows creates a much more familiar environment, and therefore may lessen the burden of trying to get into the part where you're actually learning some of the technology that's used by adversaries. Also, Toyota, now this isn't affecting us in continental US, but Toyota had a breach, and it was specifically with its Australia offices, and it was at all levels of the corporation, all the way out to where they're actually selling cars, and again, 31 million customers' information was hijacked. What's interesting about this is that the group, and again, all the links will be available to you, but there was actually a group that specifically was seeking out this company. And I think that's really key when you look at, again, some of the information we disclose. What you'll end up finding is that, again, when a criminal group, and you were just speaking to this from a cyber warfare perspective, but when a group decides they really want in, they'll, again, go to great lengths, again, to get those footholds into your network, and then from there, of course, work on, their lateral movement and work towards actually getting to that objective that they're after in your corporation. And I think looking at what happened, with Toyota's footprint in Australia, again, can maybe give some of you insights on what it is that may happen to your company when there is a group that decides your company is the one that they want to get into. And there's just so much documented that I'm sharing here. Again, please take a look at it. Also, Facebook. So millions of user passwords in clear text. And what was happening was, from a logging perspective, again, they were logging the passwords people were putting into the website for a very long time. And so a little bit of risk there. And so I link this not to go, oh, if you're a Facebook user, please change your password. But also, for you guys to self-reflect, all of you are engaged in different ways, at your companies where you may have influence in how logs are kept. If you haven't looked to see if you're keeping passwords, you may want to do that because you could be like Facebook right now. Just one other topic, I don't know if I saw a hand. Go ahead, sir.
Who all here uses a password manager?
This is on the internet, so I'm not give nothing away internet.
So do you have distinct passwords for all sites that you use?
You've learned something today. Good
well,
job.
So one of the things that's happened is I used to reuse the same password on a lot of sites until I got password manager, and it let it generate random passwords so that if Facebook exposes my password, it can't get into all my other accounts.
Absolutely.
If you're on a piece of paper method, you should change your method. It should be the password manager.
Yeah, password managers are definitely good, and maybe over some food we can talk about the smart way to use password managers, because I think there's some devil in the details that isn't necessarily exposed to all consumers, and I think it is worth talking about, but maybe not over the cast. So if you're remotely attending, please come to the next meeting. Hey, just one other one I want to run by you guys. An article, I'm not going to be able to say it's flawed to me. Anyways, what's interesting here is the use of XLM macros, and what that means for our pleasure is that these guys effectively were sending out malicious Excel workbooks, in the old binary format XLS, and effectively they had formulas that would concatenate the entire string that would cause the malicious software to be downloaded into their target organization. And for some of you real technical members in the audience, that may not sound overly exciting, but what's hard about that from a security perspective is that if you can imagine, again, looking for concatenate functions inside of a Office document to figure out if it's reassembling, again, potentially a malicious string, that's a little bit challenging to do. And so, again, outside of the meeting, please take a look at this method. I think it's very interesting. If you're on the penetration testing side, it may be worth rinsing and repeating this one just to see if your organization is actually able to tell if someone is using these features, XLMs maliciously. Just real quick to go through it, again, we still have volunteer opportunities, still looking for director of events and marketing. We also have a opportunity for a member experience director. Just kind of split a hair there on the events and marketing side. We're working really hard to, again, raise capital for our community. With that being said, we need people to also help us use the capital we're raising in a way that it benefits the community. And so these two roles kind of both complement this space. One is, of course, making sure, from an events and marketing perspective, we want to make sure that we're getting out here in Columbus and delivering stuff that, again, is meaningful to us and our community. And then from a member experience perspective, kind of the other side of that two-headed beast, if you will. Again, that's just somebody who, again, would be here just doing little litmus tests with you guys and making sure that, again, you guys are having the best possible experience while you're here participating in, the content that we're able to provide for you right now. And we're certainly, concerned, again, is what we're delivering right now, what you guys really want, and the member experience director is meant to tease that out of you if again, you're not feeling like maybe you can come direct to me about it. Also nominating committee, you know, we're not there yet, but we're getting closer and closer to, you know, when we need to start doing nominations on who will fill your officer roles. Again, this isn't a very full-time engagement. You know, it may take a max of 8 hours of your time, but again, we do need to start assembling a group of people who again can start collecting candidates, you know, around fall time frame, and again, run our elections. So again, if you think you have a few hours, fall, winter time frame, this might be for you. And again, volunteering here at ISSA is always a good thing because you're supporting your community. I still have a couple openings for speakers, I believe. Hopefully we haven't filled them all. We filled them all? Uh-oh. There's always next year though, so please, if you want to speak, definitely let me know. There's so many exciting topics to talk about, and you may not know that you have an exciting topic, so if you feel like you want to speak but you're not sure what to speak on, definitely come see me. I'm sure we could tease it out of you with a short conversation over a meal. In our community, again, I mentioned DC 706. Again, that's our local DEF CON chapter. The meeting last Saturday of every month. Do take a look at them. Also, Black Box Society. I think we have the president here. Love Black Box Society. Again, if you guys haven't taken a chance to come over to CSU, speak to Black Box Society, please do. A lot of cybersecurity enthusiasts in there, and you know, I got nothing but a big heart for that. Also, Atlanta B-Side is coming up. Again, it's still free, but I think now there's a waiting list. If you haven't gotten a ticket, you'd like one, I may have a way in for you, so let me know. Also, Sands Atlantis coming up. They always put on a really good show, and then Hacker Halted is coming up fall time frame. If you didn't know it, we have a double Tradecraft session this month. One of the sessions, again, we're going to be continuing with PowerShell. Also, our favorite director of Tradecraft will be speaking to Black Box Society, but on the engineering side of constructing cyber threat intelligence infrastructure. And so, you know, if you don't have a cyber threat intelligence program, but you were wondering what some of the infrastructure components look like, I think that's going to be a great session. Please attend. And again, we have listed out some of the other stuff coming up. With that being said, we have just a few minutes left. Does anyone have any questions? Anything I can answer?
Are some of the other older sessions archived?
Oh yeah. We've got all the meeting minutes. You can see some of the sessions recorded on the YouTube channel. Do take a look at that. And also, I have some new people in the room. If you haven't signed up for our CISSP, please do. Again, just to advertise one more time on that, you know, we have there's 8 domains in the CISSP. You know, I have a dedicated instructor for each one of the domains. You know, we're providing the book. All you have to do is sign up. It's that easy. We're providing the meal that night. We're providing an online collaboration platform for you to be able to speak to your fellow learners. Again, the only thing you have to do is sign up. So and that's free to members. Go ahead, sir.
When will we know that we've been accepted to that?
The way I was going to run it, so if I don't max, I have 10 seats right now in the classroom. I may do a special seat for a professor here from CSU because I really want the professors involved. But I'm doing 10 seats. If I exceed that number, then I'll run a raffle at the next meeting. If I don't exceed that number by the end of the month, then you just have a seat. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me do another quick check. This has been brought up a couple times. So some of us have these cool ISSA polos. Okay. I can get these at cost for the membership, but I'm just curious, just a quick show of hands, is anybody interested in having a cool ISSA polo?
Only
Okay.
if it's cool.
What's, huh?
Only if it's cool.
Oh, it's cool. Know this. It's very edgy. If you want to, you know, impress the fam, wear this around the house on during the holidays, right? If you really want to impress people.
It is the performance golf material. It's not like some old timey cotton sweater.
Play golf in it, is what you're saying.
You can.
Yes, that's right.
And
That's
win.
an idea.
And
Maybe
win,
we should
right?
have a
That's
golf
part of it.
outing.
You can win if you just wear it. Because there's power in the logo. So, no, I'll send out a little message on how to sign up. We'll do it in the meeting minutes maybe, and then you guys just let me know. The only thing I'd need is your size, and I'll try to illustrate how much it costs. This way you have some idea what it is you're getting into. I think it's like, was it 18, 16 bucks? I don't know. We'll see how much interest there is. Maybe I can get the price down even more. Yeah, okay.
Annually fee, shipping and handling.
Peter, can I throw something out there too?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you attend any Tradecraft or any member meeting, any of the events that we put on, there is a registration fee that please make sure you register for it so that we can check you in. We don't have you down, we won't be able to give you e-credits for it. We plan, now that we've had a couple months worth of events on the list right now, about registration, to be able to provide you guys with receipt e-credits for each time you attend an event.
Yeah. And remember, you can watch, whether, once you, again, get one of those tickets, if we see you in Discord or if you just give us a hello in the YouTube stream, again, we can easily give you credit for that as long as you grab a ticket, whether, again, it's for remote or on-prem. And so, again, if you're on the stream right now, please make sure you got a ticket and wave to Nixon. What's that?
I said I have one person's name on the screen, but just also keep in mind your stream tag, so the name you're using is not necessarily your name, so make sure that we get your name before we send it.
Okay. All right, guys. Anything else? Any other? Oh yeah. Well, let me give a big shout out. I have some members of Carbon Black here. Doug.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I think Doug, you're gonna be joining us tonight for the social, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll join there. And then we also have somebody from Jazz here too, so I'll let her BJ. So, but yeah, I'm Doug Hughes. So I've worked at Carbon Black. So I live here locally. So used to work at one of the companies here in town. But it's not going to be neutral. But no, I mean, if you haven't heard of Carbon Black, definitely look it up. And it's basically what Carbon Black is all about is endpoint protection. So we have endpoint protection and EDR. So that way you, and I know several companies here in town, either own it or are looking at it. We're definitely involved in the community. So if you have any questions, please reach out. And I'll hand it over to BJ.
I'm BJ Swope. I used to work at Carbon Black with Doug. I now work at Jazz. We're a startup that's doing cloud-based SIM.
Very cool. Yeah, and again, I'm real pleased you guys are here. I can't say enough good things about Doug. Doug is one of the originals from this area, one of the original InfoSec guys. So it's a real pleasure having you here, Doug. So all right, they'll be joining us, so you can hang out with Doug and BJ tonight at Applebee's. All right, I think we're done. All right, guys, let's head over to Applebee's and have something.